Hey everyone, it looks like we know officially that Amy Coney Barrett is going to be President Trump's nominee for the Supreme Court seat vacated by Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing just a week ago. That news hadn't even broken yet at this time last week. It's been a whirlwind of 7 days, but here we are. Now, the way that we can assume Amy Coney Barrett is likely the nominee, apart from what we already knew about the White House's preferences, is that actually multiple outlets have confirmed it. Right now on Friday, talk about a Friday news dump. This one, good for some, bad for others. But I want to talk right now just a little bit about what we can expect to see from this process, because it's almost certain to be Amy Coney Barrett at this point. We can start anticipating how the confirmation process is going to unfold. Now, if our experience with the Kavanaugh confirmation, and if you've read Molly Hemingway and Carrie Severino's book, you know all of the dirty details about that process. But that was 2 years ago, almost exactly. And if that process is to be our guide for how Supreme Court confirmations are going to unfold in this hyperpolarized era, well, that's not good news for Amy Coney Barrett. Now, there are two parts of this. There's two layers here. There's the electoral layer, and there is the principal layer. And they're different, of course. That they have a lot of overlap in certain areas, right? So like this nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, is kind of going to be the second running mate for Donald Trump. Like this is going to be such a high profile confirmation process unfolding in the weeks immediately before the election. So there's going to be a big electoral implication to this process. Now, does it help or does it hurt Trump? One thing I want to make really clear right now is that we don't yet, I think the way this could go really defies our imagination. And that was true with Kavanaugh. And so I think that's what we need to understand right now. The attacks on Amy Coney Barrett, I think, defy our ability to make predictions. Of course, that's what the game is in political media ahead of major circumstances like this. But I think what we should predict at this point is that there will be an unpredictably nasty smear on Amy Coney Barrett. Now, Amy Coney Barrett is a mother of many children, Catholic, 2 adopted kids from Haiti. So her character, much like Kavanaugh's, it's really going to be, they're going to attack her, of course, on her religion and, of course, on her character. Now, remember, the Kavanaugh hearing was unfolding when the Me Too movement was more central to our conversation, and the left somehow managed to dredge up thinly sourced and murky allegations of literally rape against a man with the credentials like Brett Kavanaugh. So you look at Amy Coney Barrett and you think, well, what could they possibly find in terms of character on this woman? They will find something, and I do wonder in this moment if it will be something related to race, and that's. It seems, like if they were able to, like let's think about the gang rape allegation against Brett Kavanaugh, which was published in a legacy media outlet, the New Yorker. All right, let's think about that one. If they can literally publish something like that in a prominent outlet, what can they do with somebody's history? What can they find in somebody's history, or not even in somebody's history? What can they get an old acquaintance to say that they can dredge up and then put in the pages of a major outlet where people who may not pay this close attention to politics it's legitimized for them because they don't understand the level of media corruption that exists in our world today. And that really sets the narrative. The corporate media's power is diminished, but it's still extremely powerful, and we would be foolish to pretend otherwise. So going forward, the left does have the ability to set the narrative about Amy Coney Barrett. They're going to call her anti-woman, but I suspect it's going to get much worse than that. So even if you think there's no way that, Amy Coney Barrett, she is of sterling character and there's just nothing you can do to Kavanaugh her, to bork her, right? Like we have all of these fun verbs now in our lexicon. You think there's nothing they can do? There's something they can do. They will also, you should expect them to leverage Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy to undercut Amy Coney Barrett. They will use that heavily because Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a celebrity, and maybe you've had the same experience on your own social media feeds over the past week. But what I've seen is that a lot of people who aren't political or aren't hyper-partisans posting really positive reflections on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And well, that's because the media really portrayed her as a feminist hero, and people really liked Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She had, including Antonin Scalia, but she had a personality that really that really was able to, they were able to create a persona, a larger than life persona around her, and so you can expect that to be leveraged against Amy Coney Barrett heavily going forward. So that's sort of where things are right now. Again, there's an electoral implication to this, and there's a principle and a substantive implication to this, and that's, the question of what kind of justice will Amy Coney Barrett be on the court? The left is going to ask a lot of questions about religion. I think the right has had an experience with Neil Gorsuch and maybe some decisions from Kavanaugh that they didn't expect from either of them so far, and so I think you can expect some conversation about substantively what kind of justice Amy Coney Barrett will be on the right. At the end of the day, conservatives want to get this nomination confirmed, and they want to do it in short order. Keep in mind that we could be looking at a potential Bush v. Gore situation in the election because it's a mess with the varying mail-in ballot challenges that are different from state to state, but serious across the board. So there's a lot to think about. The court should be operating at capacity if our election comes to that. And that's, partially a reason for urgency, but that's also partially a reason that the left is claiming Donald Trump is trying to steal the election. So most people are expecting this to be the left really to latch on to Amy Coney Barrett's religion because they already have done that. By the way, the media is wildly pro-abortion. The numbers on that, I suspect polls of reporters, you would find very widespread support for abortion. And the media doesn't get religion. And let's remember that Dean Baquet, the executive editor of the New York Times, that was one of his central reflections on the New York Times' terrible coverage of what happened in 2016 and why they missed the Trump wave that was about to carry Hillary Clinton out to sea. He said, we don't get religion. He said that in 2016. Now, do we think that the corporate media has done any better job understanding religion between 2016 and today? If anything, it's gotten worse. So part of all of this is going to be the media's coverage of Amy Coney Barrett through the lens of religion is going to be a disgrace. You can expect that. It's not only just that they're biased against Christians, and in this case we've seen a lot of what people identify as anti-Catholic bias against Amy Coney Barrett. This is anti-Christian bias. They are opposed to her beliefs which are embraced by Christians and people of faith, and that's the bottom line here. And it should be acknowledged as much. But, they don't understand religion to begin with. They certainly don't understand evangelicals, and they don't understand religious voters. They've had 5 years really, since Donald Trump came on the scene to correct that. And what we're going to see is the fruit of these 5 years of the media actually going in the opposite direction when it comes to religion. In some ways, it's, almost what's the word I'm looking for? I want to use the word perfect, but that's too positive. But in some ways, it's actually just really perfect that Amy Coney Barrett is the nominee right now, right before the 2020 election, because the media's biggest, one of the things the media reflected on the most in those days after the 2016 election when they were shell-shocked and promising to do better was their inability to understand religion. And here we are in the days before the 2020 election with the media set to display just how poorly it understands religion. You can expect that to play out. I believe they will find something in Amy Coney Barrett's. They will try to find something in Amy Coney Barrett's past, and if they can't find it, they'll fabricate it in terms of race. That's such a heated conversation in the country right now. I imagine they're going to find something. They're going to try to find something on that level. And the question is going to be, if something is fabricated, if there's an allegation that's really thinly sourced, then how does the media respond? If there's another Christine Blasey Ford situation, this time with Amy Coney Barrett, how is the media going to vet this allegation? How is the media going to latch onto this allegation? Frankly, I think they're going to be even more frenzied and eager to latch onto it this time around. And that's what was so unfortunate the last time, is that there was just an uncritical or not critical enough, not sufficiently critical reception of these allegations, whether they were from Christine Blasey Ford or others. And Molly's and Carrie Severino's book documents all of the missteps that were taken in the lead up to some of this reporting. I don't think any lesson was learned. I think there are some people who might be more cautious going forward, but I really expect the media to do the public no service in their coverage of the Amy Coney Barrett nomination. I think Amy Coney Barrett is should be a positive on the ticket, but at the same time, she, because of what the left will say she believes on abortion and on sex and gender and the LGBT agenda, she will be depicted as an evil bigot. The question is going to be how she performs in rebuking those charges. Kavanaugh, had this righteous indignation when he went to the Senate to address Blasey Ford's allegations in this very memorable hearing. Now, Amy Coney Barrett might not find herself in a situation like that, but it's still an open question as to how she will handle this as a public figure. Will she be affable and likable? I think yes. I think what we've seen from her so far indicates that's an affirmative. But some people really struggle with that harsh limelight that the corporate media especially shoots onto conservative women, strong conservative women. This is really going to be a landmark moment in the battle between conservatives and the broader cultural left, which of course includes the corporate media and the formal Democratic Party. But seriously, this is going to be a landmark moment because you have somebody who is an accomplished and brilliant jurist like Amy Coney Barrett, who also happens to be a mother, and a mother of many children adopted from Haiti. This is going to be an important moment. We're looking at another Sarah Palin situation, and that shows the media's hostility and disdain for women of faith and for women affiliated with conservatism. It's amazing when we're able to see the women targeted in these circumstances maintain their strength and their grace. So I think we're really looking at a landmark moment. I expect Amy Coney Barrett to handle it well. I do not know what to expect in terms of the attacks that are leveraged against her, except that I know to expect the unexpected. And when I say unexpected, I mean likely something that is a smear beyond what we are able at this moment, when the balance of the Supreme Court is at stake. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a liberal icon, has passed away and her seat is the one that's open. The left feels right now like the stakes couldn't possibly be higher, and Trump is on the ballot. They have an ailing candidate who calls a lid day after day, more days than you would expect from a candidate this late in the race, who seems to struggle to get through sentences sometimes. So the stakes are, they're going to feel like the stakes are really high in this moment. They are really high in this moment. Voters on the left and right understand that. This is going to turn out both sides' bases. I don't know how it's going to play with swing voters. Someone just said, I thought SCOTUS was announced tomorrow. It will be announced tomorrow. Donald Trump plans to make this announcement formally at 5 p.m. Multiple reports have come in from Norah O'Donnell, from other outlets, that it will be Amy Coney Barrett. So that, it was a safe bet before right now, but that broke this evening. So we know it's almost certain to be Amy Coney Barrett. Donald Trump could change that, but it would be very difficult at this point because these nominees go through vigorous vetting processes before they're formally announced. And if they've gotten to a point where, it seems likely to be Amy Coney Barrett right now, Friday, before the announcement Saturday, I suspect the White House has known who it was going to be for a couple of days. And they may have just been formally, they may have just been going through the motions, perhaps with other candidates in case something happened, or to kind of do their due diligence. But I suspect that they've known for a while who it was going to be. Anyway, if you have any questions, go ahead and comment them now. I'm wrapping up because I know it's Friday night and everybody is hanging out. But this is, I want to emphasize, I think this is really a landmark moment. Whenever we see the corporate media and the cultural left, the corporate media is, of course, a part of the cultural left, aim their fire at a woman affiliated with conservatism, we get telling results. That is what is about to unfold over this confirmation process. This confirmation process is unfolding in the waning days of an extremely charged election season. It's going to be a whirlwind. It's going to be an absolute whirlwind. So, and you can expect religion, you can expect race, you can expect all of these storylines to unfold and intersect over the coming weeks. It's going to be brutal. And Amy Coney Barrett, I imagine, is prepared. She watched what happened to Brett Kavanaugh. We all watched what happened to Brett Kavanaugh. That impacted a lot of voters. I think it radicalized a lot of center-right people into sort of full-blown conservatives. Here's someone asked, do we think she'll be useful to help soften the possibility of Trump securing more of the suburban women vote he's currently failing in? That's exactly the question I think Republicans in the White House and Democrats have been asking themselves for the past week. Now, again, she's a likable, competent, accomplished, strong mother of many children. So I absolutely think, there are some voters in the suburbs, when they watch her get attacked by the corporate media, it will endear her to them. It will make her look strong. But at the same time, the corporate media is enormously powerful. And if they come out swinging, calling her bigot, evil, which they have already done, and is about to be ratcheted up to another level, well, that is powerful, and that works with some voters who, they don't think of themselves in that way. And once the mainstream media is able to set that narrative, conservative media is powerful, but not that powerful that they can totally disrupt those narratives as soon as they gel and set in stone. They'll still work with a lot of people, and they still convince a lot of people who are more casual consumers of the news. So you're going to have, and then the question is, do those people vote? So you're going to have, I think, a fracturing of that particular demographic. But if we look at what happened with Brett Kavanaugh, I do think that actually was disgusting to a lot of kind of middle of the road, maybe center right, maybe center left, educated suburban women who just were disgusted by what they saw. So it's really hard to say because I don't know what the attacks on her are going to be, other than that I know they're going to be disgusting and likely false. That's what we can predict, but beyond that, again, I'll say this, I'll repeat this. I think what is going to unfold defies our ability to make predictions, because it sort of defies all of the rules that we've seen. I think it's possible we see something worse than what happened to Brett Kavanaugh, if that's possible. But I think we actually lack the imagination to predict what's going to happen, because it's going to be so brutal. So you can stay tuned to the Federalist. Please like and subscribe while you're here. We're bringing a lot more content to YouTube these days, and really appreciate your subscriptions and your likes. All right, we'll see you soon. Hang in there.